Have you ever noticed that after someone hurts you, your brain keeps hitting replay on the exact moment, days, or even weeks later? Welcome to Mind Decoded. I'm Dr. Ann.
And I'm Zach. Dr. Ann, what are we unpacking today?
Today, we're decoding the science of forgiveness and specifically why letting go may matter more for your own health than for the person who wronged you.
That already sounds counterintuitive. I always thought forgiveness was about letting the other person off the hook.
That's what most of us grow up believing, but the research tells a very different story. Before we get to the study, let's talk about what happens in your brain before forgiveness even becomes an option.
Okay, because I have a feeling you're about to describe my last 3 weeks.
Let's see. Imagine a friend says something careless at a dinner party. It hurts. Later that night, you're in bed and your brain starts a private screening. You replay their words. You build the perfect comeback. You imagine how they'd react.
Oh, I do that. It's like a courtroom drama at 2 a.m.
Right. And here's the fascinating part. Your brain treats that mental rehearsal like the event is happening all over again. The same threat circuitry activates, so your body releases a small dose of stress hormones each time you replay it.
So I'm basically stress dosing myself on a loop.
You are, and it's not because you're being dramatic. It's how memory and emotion reinforce each other. When an experience has strong emotional charge, your brain tags it as important and keeps bringing it back for review.
That explains why small stuff sometimes sticks harder than big stuff. A weird look can linger for days.
Exactly. Now, before we talk about forgiveness, let's define it because a lot of people think forgiving means saying the hurt was okay or going back to how things were.
Yeah, I always thought if I forgive, I'm saying it didn't matter, and that feels wrong.
And that's why people resist it. Researchers like Robert Enright define forgiveness as a conscious decision to release resentment toward someone who harmed you, even while you still see the harm as wrong. It is not excusing, it is not forgetting, and it is absolutely not reconciliation. You can forgive someone and still choose not to have them in your life.
Really? Because I think that's the missing piece for a lot of people. You can forgive and still have boundaries.
Yes. In fact, healthy forgiveness often requires boundaries. There's another idea I love called the injustice gap. It's the space between what you expected or needed and what actually happened. The bigger that gap, the harder forgiveness feels.
So if someone really broke my trust, the gap is huge, and that's why a quick "I forgive you" feels fake.
Exactly, and that's not a personal failing. It means your brain is accurately recognizing how much was lost. So forgiveness is not about pretending the gap is small. It's about deciding how long you'll keep standing at the edge of that gap.
That image hits. I keep going back to the ledge, and it doesn't change what happened.
Right. Now, I want to bring in the research that made me see this differently.
Okay, this is the part where my assumptions usually get flipped.
Fred Luskin ran the Stanford Forgiveness Project. He worked with people carrying deep, unresolved hurts. Some were still upset about things that happened years or even decades earlier. They went through a forgiveness training program, structured exercises to understand their own rumination and shift their perspective.
What did they find?
The participants reported less anger, less stress, fewer symptoms of depression, and more optimism. But the part that really stayed with me is what happened physically. They had fewer stress-related complaints like backaches and headaches. Some showed improvement in cardiovascular measures.
Wait, so holding on to resentment wasn't just in their head, it was showing up in their body.
Exactly. Later research has connected forgiveness with lower blood pressure, better sleep, and even stronger immune function. In one study, participants who mentally rehearsed a grudge showed higher heart rate and blood pressure than when they imagined forgiving. Their bodies literally responded to the mental stance they took.
So the body can't tell the difference between reliving the resentment and actually being in the original moment.
In many ways, no. The stress response doesn't ask whether the threat is happening now or just being remembered. This doesn't mean forgiveness cures disease, but chronic resentment keeps your stress response activated more often, and chronic stress wears on the body over time.
Okay, so resentment is like leaving a stress faucet dripping in the background.
That's a great way to picture it. It's not always a huge burst. It's low-grade, ongoing, and easy to ignore until it becomes normal. And here's the part that surprised me most when I first read this research.
What?
The people who benefited from forgiveness were not making the other person feel better. They were changing what was happening inside their own nervous system. The person who hurt them often didn't even know they were in the forgiveness program.
So, the other person might be out there living their life, totally oblivious, while I'm the one stuck in the loop. That is honestly a little annoying.
It's humbling. And it's also oddly freeing because it means the power to reduce your own suffering is not dependent on the other person apologizing or changing.
Okay, I need to sit with that. I always thought forgiveness was about them. Like if they apologize, then I can start to forgive. But you're saying it's an inside job.
The psychological benefits are an inside job. Forgiveness is something you do for your own emotional real estate. But let's get practical, because I know you and probably our listeners are wondering how this works when the hurt feels too big.
Yes, some hurts are huge. It's one thing to forgive someone for being late. It's another if someone broke your trust in a big way.
Completely. Research doesn't say big hurts are easy to forgive. It says the process matters, not the speed. Enright's model includes phases like uncovering your anger, deciding to forgive, and working to shift your perspective. It's not a snap decision, it's a practice.
Okay, I'm curious what that practice looks like day to day. Because I think most of us here just let it go, and it makes us want to hold on harder.
Exactly, and that's the irony. When someone says just let it go, it can feel like they're minimizing your pain. Research suggests a better starting point is actually the opposite. Name the hurt accurately. Acknowledge what happened and how it affected you. That's not resentment, that's clarity.
So I shouldn't rush to forgiveness, but I also shouldn't keep poking the wound.
Right. Think of it like a sprained ankle. You don't pretend you can run. You notice the injury, stabilize it, and then gradually move. Forgiveness done well is similar. You validate the pain first. Then over time, you change the story your brain keeps replaying.
But how do you change the story? Because my brain is a very convincing director.
A lot of people find it helpful to shift from asking, "Why did they do this to me?" to asking, "What do I need right now to feel safe and clear?" That small shift moves you from rumination to agency. You're no longer waiting for an apology that may never come. You're deciding what you need.
That's such a simple question, but it changes everything. It turns me from a character in the story into the author.
That's exactly the psychological shift, and that's the moment a lot of people feel the grip loosen. It doesn't mean the harm was okay. It means the harm stops occupying the front of your mind all day.
Okay, I have to be honest, this is bringing up something from my own life.
Let's hear it.
Earlier this year, a coworker I was close with took credit for a project I led. At first, I told myself I was over it, but then I'd be in the shower or driving and suddenly I'd be re-arguing the whole thing with him in my head. It was exhausting.
That's such a relatable example. And notice what your brain did. It didn't just remember the event. It kept rehearsing a response, as if preparing for a confrontation that already passed. That's rumination. It feels productive, but it mostly keeps you stuck.
Yeah, I thought if I replayed it enough, I'd figure out the perfect thing to say. But I never got to say it, so I just kept looping.
And that's one of the trickiest parts of resentment. The brain treats rumination as problem solving, but there's no problem left to solve in that moment. The event already happened, so the loop just generates stress without resolution.
Okay, so if a listener's in that loop right now, what do? Not with a therapist, not with a big life overhaul. What's one practical step?
One very practical step is to schedule a short worry window and then close the door. Instead of letting the replay happen dozens of times a day, you say, "Okay, I'll give this thought 5 focus minutes at 7 p.m. When it shows up at 11 a.m., you say, "Not now, 7 p.m. This doesn't erase the memory, but it interrupts the automatic loop.
I love that. It's like giving the resentment a meeting time instead of letting it barge in whenever it wants.
Exactly. Another step from forgiveness research is to write a letter you never send, not an "it's okay" letter. A letter where you say what happened, how it affected you, and what you need to let go. You don't send it. The writing itself helps your brain organize the experience instead of replaying it in fragments.
So it's not about sending the letter, it's about getting it out of your head and onto paper.
Right, because memory becomes less intrusive when it feels structured and contained. You're not suppressing it, you're giving it a place to live outside your daily awareness.
I think that's what a lot of people miss. They think forgiveness means pretending the hurt never happened. But really, it's about not letting the hurt rent space in your mind forever.
And look, once you understand the mechanism behind this, you might actually feel more compassion for yourself. Because this isn't a character flaw, it's a brain feature. Your brain is trying to keep you safe by reviewing threats. It just doesn't know when to stop.
So you're saying this isn't a me problem, it's a brain problem?
In the sense that rumination is something human brains do. You're not broken for replaying a hurt, but you also have more power to interrupt the loop than you think.
All right, so let me make sure I have this straight. Forgiveness is not excusing. It's not reconciliation. It's not forgetting. It's a conscious release of resentment, and it works mostly by changing what's happening inside me.
Beautifully summarized. And that's why researchers like Everett Worthington talk about forgiveness as an emotional replacement. You're not erasing anger. You're gradually replacing the cold, resentful distance with something softer, maybe even just neutral. You don't have to jump to warmth. Neutral is often a huge victory.
Neutral. That's so much more doable than trying to feel warm and fuzzy towards someone who hurt you.
Exactly. And I think that's a more realistic goal for many people. You aim for, I can think about this without my heart rate going up. That alone can improve your sleep, your focus, and even your mood.
That's wild. So forgiveness is less about the other person and more about your nervous system.
That is the central finding of forgiveness psychology. And once you internalize that, it changes how you judge yourself for still being upset. You're not weak for hurting. You're just a human with a brain that remembers pain. The question is what you do with the memory.
Okay, before we wrap, I want to ask the thing I think a lot of listeners are thinking. What if the person is still in my life and keeps hurting me?
Great question. Forgiveness does not mean you have to tolerate ongoing harm. Researchers are careful to say forgiveness works best when paired with safety. If someone is actively harmful, the first step is protection, not forgiveness. You can work on releasing resentment while also enforcing boundaries or ending contact. Those aren't opposites. They can go together.
So forgiveness can be quiet and private, and no one else has to know.
Absolutely. It can be an internal shift. You don't owe the person a dramatic declaration. You don't even have to tell them. Forgiving someone in your own mind and body is often enough to change your daily experience.
That actually removes so much pressure. I thought I had to have a big conversation, but maybe the most important conversation is the one I have with myself.
Yes. And if you do choose to have an external conversation, do it for clarity, not for the hope of a perfect apology. That way you're not handing your piece over to their response.
Okay, Dr. N, I feel like this episode is personally calling me out, but in a kind way.
That's the goal, not to make anyone feel bad about holding a grudge, but to help them see the cost of carrying it and the freedom that comes from putting it down.
So what is one small thing a listener can do today?
Pick one hurt you've been replaying. Don't try to forgive it in 30 seconds. Just write down what happened, how it affected you, and one boundary or need you have now. Then notice if your body feels a little less clenched.
I love that. It's like taking the first step without forcing a fake ending.
Exactly. And if you want more episodes like this, subscribe to Mind Decoded and hit the bell. We release new psychology explanations every day, always with real research and no jargon.
Yes. And share this with a friend who's been holding on to something heavy. Maybe it'll help them breathe a little easier.
Before we go, here's my question for you. What is one hurt you've been carrying that might be costing you more than it cost the person who caused it? You don't have to answer out loud. Just notice.
That's a good one. As always, thanks for decoding your mind with us.
Thanks for being here. See you in the next episode.